Akira, the game has a very distinctive visual style. Can you tell me how did you come up with the idea to do it like this?
まさにもうこう北欧、東欧のですね、これ
So just imagine, let's go back in time a little bit when stage and theater, fairy tales, and storybooks were our main means of entertainment in terms of storytelling. So puppet theater, clay theater. In Japanese, there's a word called kamishibai, which is paper drama. So it scrolls, and the story goes on. So we were heavily influenced and inspired by the old way of telling stories. So this is basically a modern interpretation, interactive interpretation of an old traditional way of telling the story. Visually inspired by Eastern Europe animation art. Personally, I've been a huge fan of Jan Schwankmeyer. So his work has heavily influenced our team, and I think you can recognize that as well. So that's where our soul and hearts are from.
Now, the genre of the game as a platformer isn't that, well, you don't find so many games right now in stores. Why did you choose like this also next to the retro visual style? Why did you choose the retro genre, retro playing style?
そもそもシネムラもそうですけど
So in collaborating with Digital Reality and Grasshopper together, we wanted to make sure that whatever content we were going to be releasing and shipping to the users, that it has the maximum potential of appealing to newcomers, people who may have left the genre for a while but want to come back. It has a lot of nostalgia factor in it. So that was the base sort of idea that we had. In working together, we wanted to make sure that our content was going to reach as many people as possible, but at the same time have its own uniqueness and originality to it. So accessibility is open, but giving this unique sort of flavor and flair to it will be very unique to Grasshopper and Digital Reality. Only we can right now sort of come up with something like this. So that's where our ideas came from.
Why did you choose to work with this studio in particular to do the sound design?
きっかけは何だろう。なんて答えればいいのかな。
So it's interesting, well, fairly, I guess, normal how we met is that we actually met through introductions from a mutual friend, colleague of ours. Those two studios met. We had some discussions about, possibly working together. And Digital Reality, a Hungarian company, from the Japanese side, we may not even know where Hungary is on the map. Like, that's how foreign it was initially. But in the end, we're all here to make great games, great content, right? So after learning about their history, culture, and passion for their creation, we felt like there was a good synergy and a chemistry between our philosophy and Digital Reality's roots and upbringing and their approach to making games. So it felt very beneficial for us to work and collaborate together. And in terms of sound and how I see it and why I wanted to make and create the sound for this is that because their expectations and their visions were very clear, and I saw their passion and what they wanted to make. So I wanted to meet their expectations and maybe even try to provide more. And that was already itself a good challenge for me. So that's why I decided to provide the sound for them.
In regards to sound design, well, what techniques did he use? Why did he choose to make the sound like it's in the game? So, what does the game sound like?
Not just for Black Knight Sword, but as a sound designer and director and sound music producer, there is sort of my style and my way of creating the music for video games. And, in general, when you look at any type of entertainment, whether it's games, music, film, or TV programs, there is kind of a general format that people, if they want to, they can follow. And you're given a concept, and you're responsible for music, you're responsible for story. And yeah, you could follow that, format if you like to. And I think you will get good stuff out of it. That's okay. But I'm quite the opposite. And I've broken many barriers and many formats. And what I do is very probably an individual style of my own. And the aim that I have is that, obviously I want to create a distinct and unique feel and emotional connection that I said earlier during my presentation will have a long-lasting impression in a lot of people's hearts or minds. So I go through that process with myself, and throughout that process, it's very exhausting. It takes up all my energy. Sometimes I can barely handle it myself, but as soon as I overcome that process, somehow I have music that kind of comes to me and I start making it. And so far, with, I'm sure, some luck, that has been successful for me. So I continue to work in that format. But I have to tell you, it's not easy. It's very, very hard for me too.
Where does he take his inspiration from? Is it like from playing the game, or from looking at the animations, or from dreams, or where does it come from?
全部ですよね、それね。で全部だし、今これってほら。
All of the above that you mentioned, plus, for example, in the setting of Black Knight Sword, you see on screen a stage and theater, and as I mentioned earlier, you're part of the audience, kind of watching this story take place, and there's a sword, getting his enemies and taking them out of the way. So I have to obviously remind myself that I'm seeing it from this perspective, but let's say you go to a theater and you have your seat, and there's a live orchestra usually behind, right in front of the stage, but you can't really see them, right? But whatever action takes place on stage, the orchestra is playing. So for example, in this case, when you take a weapon and you're trying to get an enemy, I can easily sort of add that sound. But in real life, when you go to musicals and plays, they might not be perfectly in sync. But in this case, I've sort of manipulated, every single move and every single reaction and impression that you would get as an audience member. So those are the sort of tricks that I use for Black Knight Sword.
Well, Black Knight Sword is a download game, and games like Silent Hill were like big AAA productions, I guess. Why did you choose to work on a download game, and isn't that a restriction, or is it the future of the gaming industry?
そうですね。確かにボックスのゲームと。
So it's most likely a blend of both. Not every developer has the luxury of only creating box products. Some are still doing that, but you can't ignore the fact that there are plenty of digital titles and content that have the same kind of fun factor and entertainment value. So that's exactly what we're aiming for. Obviously digital downloadable titles have a smaller budget, small team, but what's most important is that we don't lose sight of the fun factor and providing users a brand new game and a brand new experience. So that's something that Grasshopper, as this is a first challenge, we have to constantly keep in mind that because it's a bite-sized game, that doesn't mean the entertainment value is bite-sized as well. And I think to shape kind of a path for the future for us and most likely many other developers in the world, this is something that we need to experience and learn and see where we can sort of differentiate the entertainment value of how much goes into box products, how much is good enough for digital downloadable content. So it's a new challenge for us, but it's worth the experience.
One last question. What is like his dream project? What he wants to work on? Is it like a movie or a game, or so what does he like to do?
仕事か。仕事?
It might sound pretty plain and simple, but being able to work on a film would be probably an opportunity that I would look forward to. Yes.
Japanese cinema?
日本の
日本じゃないです。日本は洋画がいいです。洋画やりたいです。
not Japanese cinema.
Okay, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to do the interview with you too. Thank you.
Thank you.